Okay, everybody, we're going to do the writing assignment now. So if you'd pay attention, that would be great. Hutch number 7, could you please come to the door? Could you please pay attention? No? So here we are. It's week 4 of our coronavirus quarantine. So I wanted to do the writing assignment stuff today, and so I'm doing it from the Word document. If you got this in your packet, you should be looking at the letter. If you got this in email, this is under it should say 10 letter, or it will say 11 letter or 12th letter. Anyway, it's called the letter. If you somehow got it in some other way, it's the letter. So you want to look back in your packet and find the letter, which is where I talk about how much I miss you and how much I wish we were in class, and talking about the YouTube channel where you can find all of these videos that will help you get through the lessons and through the questions that we have to get through and all that kind of stuff. I also talk about the journal here, about keeping a journal. It would be awesome if you would do that. I talk about in here about how when we study history, we read, the books and the encyclopedia stuff and the accounts that are written by professional historians, and we look at what people who were famous at that time were doing. Whether it was the president of the CDC, whether it was President Trump, or whether it was Dr. Fauci, or maybe it was some infectious control expert wrote a book about the coronavirus, and we can read those accounts. But what they also do is they find people's diaries, they find people's journals, and they look and they see, what was it really like? And they go through photograph albums of families and they look and see. I myself, my grandmother, when she passed away, a lot of her photographs went to different cousins in the group, and I got a lot of photos, and I got a lot of photos from the time of the Depression. And in the Great Depression, shortly after the Great Depression was the war, and the war effort had you ration stuff, which is not unlike what we're doing now, where you go to the store and you can only get 1 dozen eggs. Like, wow, that's crazy. At the time then, you could only buy sugar and salt and flour if you had coupons for it. And they would send every family in the country coupons, so many coupons. And if you had, 4 coupons, you could go buy 5 pounds of flour or a 50-pound bag of flour. I'm not sure what it was, but you could only buy certain stuff at a certain time, much like it is today. So gas was a big one. You couldn't get a gas, and so a lot of people didn't go anywhere because you couldn't spend the gas. But there's pictures of my grandmother and her friend sitting in the back of a truck, and they couldn't afford to buy new shoes. And you couldn't get the shoemakers were going out of business because they were making boots for the soldiers, but they weren't making new shoes. So you couldn't buy new shoes. So my grandmother tied like shoelaces or string or rubber bands around their floppy shoes because their soles of their feet were coming apart. You know how it is when your sneaker comes apart, there's no wearing it anymore. Well, for them, they tied it up and they wore that sneaker, and they wore that shoe for a little while longer because they tied it up with string, and there's pictures of their feet with the rubber bands on them to hold their shoes together. So we really find out what it was really like from people like you who write about what it is really like for them. So I want you to keep a diary. I think it's going to be fun to look at. 100 years from now, people will want to know what you guys were really doing when you weren't in school, and it will be interesting to people who, maybe 100 years from now, they would never think of closing school for this reason because we have vaccines and we have science and whatever. Maybe this is how school will be for you forever because this is what they're going to decide we're going to do from now on. Who knows? Anyway, below that is your pacing guide. This shows you what to do. So you read the story. You do the multiple choice questions. You choose a discussion question. There's 4 for the fly. You only have to do 1. And then there's the writing assignment. Under here, you have the next page is the writing assignment. Your job is to determine the central idea, which is what this story is about, and using one writing strategy. And you can call it whatever you want to call it. You can call it a literary element. You can call it a literary technique. You can call it a literary term. That's what we've been calling it. Or a rhetorical device. Either way, it's the thing that the author uses to develop a central idea. A central idea is a universal truth found in a story. It's the thing the story is all about. It's what the author is trying to tell you. And it often says, like, what does this story teach me about life? And you turn this into your central idea. It will be something like, no matter what obstacles you face in life, you should always persevere. It will be like, what's important in life is not money, but friends and family. It will be something like, you should take care of your friends because someday they'll take care of you. Or, who knows? The stories are endless about, the struggle sometimes isn't worth it. Or this, you have to, or to persevere, you have to persevere. I don't know. Anyway, you are going to discuss the conflict in the story that developed this idea and make sure you are sticking with conflict. This is what does that sentence even mean? This is a 2 to 3 paragraph response. You study the outline in this packet, fill in the blanks, use that if you need to. Read through the sample response. Make sure that your examples are of that literary element. If you choose imagery, then you need to talk about how the author writes and uses, vivid description to get the idea across that life next to the sea is very hard and you need to have a network of friends to help, or, whatever. So always explain how that example develops your central idea. Your response has got to be, you got to have 2 to 3 examples, should be detailed, connect the 2 together. Here's a sample one. In this case, it's a story called He and I, and the author uses internal and external conflict to develop the central idea. So in this case, he talks about how the author describes the main character, Anthony, and the internal and external conflict that gets across the central idea that you're going to face a lot of obstacles and you need to persevere. And so then he gives examples. You'll notice that he uses line numbers to tell us where those examples take place. He's only got 2. It's not rocket science. He's only got 2, and he quotes them. He can quote them because right there he's got the excerpt of the story. So then in his conclusion, he restates the introduction part about what he was going to talk about and how we see that in Anthony, and that's it. This is not an argument. This is not an argument. This is not a research paper. This is just a text analysis. You are analyzing this text, and you're telling us how the central idea is revealed through a literary term. So then I give you a whole list of literary terms to choose from. On the Regents, you will have, they will list them. They ain't going to give you the definitions, but they're going to list them so you have stuff to choose from. Choose one that you can talk about. Choose one that you remember from when we were working in class. Choose one that you can see clearly. I don't know if maybe we need to do another whole video on literary terms, but we'll chat about that. All right, so this is your outline. I gave you this because this was super helpful when we did the Regents review. I'm going to do this with you right now, and we're going to see what happens. All right, so in the text, the 3 little pigs. I need to insert stuff here so we don't make such a mess. The central idea is you need to work hard and prepare because, how about I spell because right? How about it, huh? Because hardships are coming and you need to be ready. That's a great central idea for the Three Little Pigs. The author develops the central idea through the use of what? Well, what is it about the Three Little Pigs story that shows us the universal truth in a story? What did I learn about this and how did I learn that? Oh boy, let's talk about conflict, maybe. Or how about the protagonist and the antagonist? Could be. Could be foreshadowing. Ooh. I'm gonna go with, I'm gonna go with protagonist or antagonist through use of an antagonist, which is the wolf posing as hardships that come and blow down your house. One example the author uses is the pig that built his house of, what's the first guy? Straw, I think. And it can be found on line 106 according to the text. The first little pig built his house out of straw, and then later we see this. The wolf came and huffed and puffed and blew the little pig's house down. And that is line 107. All right, this is huffed and he puffed. This shows us that trouble in our life is coming. And it will try to defeat us. We must prepare. This serves to develop the central idea of bad things will happen and we have to work hard to be ready. I don't know, some of this stuff is not necessary, and this is kind of overkill because you kind of already set it up here, but it's good practice. And we all know you can't land a jump shot if you don't practice. And we all know, right, Junior, that you can't hit somebody with an uppercut unless you practice the uppercut, because it isn't a straight-on punch. It takes a little skill to land one of those on the chin like you're supposed to. All right, so by showing the wolf as adversity and the house of straw as the unprepared pig. What is this also? Anybody? Anybody? My cat? My dog? Anybody? Yeah. Okay, so this is also like a metaphor. We are comparing two things. The wolf is like adversity. The house of straw is like unprepared pig. And so it's a metaphor. So that's another device you could use to describe this. All right, one example. Another example is the pig that built his house of stone. Was it brick? I think it was brick. Brick can be found, and how that preparation caused the pig to survive and help his friends, because every other little pig ran to his house. So it's found on line 250. According to the text, the wolf huffed and he puffed and he huffed and he puffed. Listen, if we were in class right now, you all would be giggling about the huffing and the puffing, and I'm sorry about that. You don't have an audience to be laughing about the huffing and the puffing. So just laugh to yourself, giggle, giggle, ha ha. And he couldn't blow down the house. This shows us how the preparation of the third pig paid off in when the wolf, why do I always want to make it wolf? Wolf showed up. He was ready. This serves to develop the central idea of hard work pays off when you prepare for bad things to happen by showing the protagonist, the pigs, as creatures that made bad choices, but in the end found good choices that paid off when trouble came. All right. Look at it, I made up this a text box. Woo, crazy. Okay. In conclusion, then here we are at our conclusion. And we could put line 282. How about my number lock is not on? Love that. 282. All right. In conclusion, the writer uses the protagonist to develop the central idea of preparation pays off when trouble comes. And he does this by using the metaphor, oh boy, we're mixing our of the wolf as trouble. And when the pig was prepared, the wolf or troubles could not blow down their house, and they were safe. All right. So there you go. There's your text analysis. It's not horrible. It's not awful. You just need to make sure you have your line places. You need to make sure you've picked one text, you've picked one central idea, and you've picked one literary term, in this case the antagonist, which, by the way, I used protagonist down here. And down here, this is the protagonist, or the pigs. And when the trouble or the antagonist came, so I figured out how to use both the antagonist and the protagonist. And then I wrote a conclusion. There you go. So I have to go back through, obviously, now here's the thing. You can use this text analysis outline, but you got to rewrite it all because there's all these, it's got to have, good paragraphs. I want you to indent. Can you hear me, Mark Dewey? I need you to indent. And so, you need to clean it up in order to turn it in any fashion that would make sense to everybody. So that's what we need to do, is use this outline to help you organize your ideas, but then rewrite it as your text analysis. Now you can email it back to me. I think that's a valuable way to get the work back to me so that we can talk about your writing, and so we can do the work that we need to do with your writing. I don't know how to teach you how to write without having you write. I hate to say it, but it's true. So you can email it back to me. You can take a picture of it with your phone and text it back to me. If you need to do that, we need to talk about that when we talk on the phone, and I'll give you my number so that you can text it back to me. If you want to fold it up and send it back to the school, you can do that, and then we will try to mitigate that in some way when, the time comes, I guess. Otherwise, we're going to have to chat about it and see how it works. Maybe you'll have to read it to me over the phone. I don't know. We got to figure it out. We got to work collectively and creatively to make this work. So it's been a joy. If you have questions or concerns, when I call you on the phone, that's the time to have it done. I can't stress enough how important it is for you to answer the phone for your teachers. You may not want to, and you may not like it, but we don't have any other way for you to grade you. And if I don't have grades, then I have to put zeros in the book. And a 0 in the book is very much like a gutter ball in bowling, and it kills you. It just kills your game right there. So don't let that happen. You can mitigate, can work on that. If there's a certain time I should be calling you, let me know what that is, and I will call you at that time. If it's 8 o'clock at night, I can do that. If it's 7:30 in the morning, I can do that. I know it will never be 7:30 in the morning, but I can do that. So you just let me know when is a good time to call you, and I'll do that. Otherwise, we will talk soon. Have a great day. Stay safe. Stay home. And, stay positive. Stay classy. We'll talk to you later.